The atom bomb, of course, has changed the complexion of all military strategy and planning. And as part of its evolution, the Army has faced up to the new responsibility of training its forces for nuclear as well as conventional warfare. Communist aggressiveness, whether outright attack, subversion, or agitation, has worn many guises in the past. Only a strong, combat-ready army can give pause to a militant nation bent on further expansion. Following a revolution in Iraq in the summer of 1958, the government of neighboring Lebanon requested military assistance from the United States. The Lebanese army had failed to quell a rebellion which had been going on for several months, and radio propaganda from Moscow, Cairo, and Damascus led the government to believe its sovereignty was in jeopardy because of the bloodbath in Iraq. Under the Eisenhower Doctrine, Lebanese President Chamoun asked for American aid. Members of an Army airborne battle group of the 24th Division were airlifted from Germany to Beirut. With members of the Marine Corps from the Navy's 6th Fleet, the Army set about securing the Beirut airport and establishing law and order in the capital city and environs. Such swift and timely action on the part of the United States Armed Forces contributed much toward bringing peace to Lebanon and stability in the Middle East as a whole. Lebanon is but one example of nearly a score of crises since World War II, which clearly demonstrates the need for the capability of moving troops fast and smoothly from one part of the world to another when a small conflict suddenly threatens to explode into a war of giant proportions. In trying to improve its mobility and firepower, our Army is constantly testing new techniques to boost its maneuverability and increase the impact of its fighting punch. Helicopters have already proved their value in moving infantrymen into battle areas fast. Today, armed experimental helicopters presage things to come, the flying tanks and personnel carriers of tomorrow. In carrying out its mission in the training, deployment, and redeployment of our combat troops as constantly changing international conditions demand, Army planners and strategists today are aware of the fact that communist leaders are not idle, that they too are working to improve their military machines, are investing all the skills, intelligence, and manpower which a totalitarian state commands in the construction of a fighting force which will not only equal, but surpass those of the free nations of the world. The complexion of future battles will demand that our Army forces be highly mobile if its increased destructive firepower is to be used effectively. Speed, punch, dispersion, and mobility. These are the key words in today's Army, and to a greater degree the necessity of the Army of tomorrow. History has shown that time and time again, major conflicts are usually preceded by periods when an aggressor either chants phrases of peace or chews away slowly at weaker neighbors. To relax our guard or ease our military strength is to invite disaster. The lands under communist rule stretch from Central Europe to the east rim of Asia. These lands represent more than 1/4 of the world's surface. Their peoples represent more than 1/3 of the world's population. While the Soviet Union continues to make rapid strides in conquering space, it has not turned away from the idea of controlling the world. Its standing army is second in size only to that of the Red Chinese. In the intensive training it gives its soldiers, it's second to none. If the United States is to contain the ambitions of the communist world in the future, our Army must be ready to fight under any and all conditions. In times of crisis, America has always produced men with the courage and convictions to fulfill the Army's mission, to meet the enemy and to overcome him face to face. This era of atoms and missiles does not mark any decline in the value of ground troops, nor does it produce any doubt that in a future war, large or small, the final decision will lie in the hands of the men who are able to defend their own land and to take and hold the enemy's territory. All the military services are working together to develop the strength necessary to deter war or to be victorious should our deterrent efforts fail. As its part in our total defense effort, our Army maintains strong combat-ready forces overseas and strategic forces at home ready to respond to local aggression anywhere in the world or to reinforce our overseas deployment in case of general war. It provides anti-aircraft units for the air defense of the United States and trained reserve forces capable of rapid mobilization. And by continuing to develop the ground forces of our allies around the world, it seeks to discourage aggression by a unified show of strength, by making clear our determination to defend the rights of free men everywhere, now and always.
The Big Picture is an official report for the armed forces and the American people. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center. Presented by the Department of the Army in cooperation with this station.